Welcome back, seekers of truth and architects of the human soul. You have tuned into Anything You Want, the only digital frequency where we dare to look behind the velvet curtain of fame to find the raw, beating heart of reality. We are not here for the superficial headlines, we are here for the stories that keep us awake at night, the narratives of regret, redemption, and the relentless passage of time. Before we descend into the profound emotional landscape of today's story, a story that has been 8 years in the making, I invite you to secure your seat in our theater of dreams. Please, subscribe to the channel to ensure you never miss a chapter of these unfolding lives. Press the like button to signal to the world that you demand depth in your media. And for those who wish to be more than just spectators, for those who wish to be the patrons of this storytelling sanctuary, I urge you to click the join button. Your membership is the fuel that keeps this engine running. Now, let us turn the page to a man who has finally stopped running. For 8 long years, there was only silence. It was a silence so profound, so heavy, that thousands of theories were constructed in its void. It was a silence that fans tried to decode and journalists tried to penetrate, yet it stood like a fortress wall around the heart of Turkey's most exported star. But today, the fortress crumbled. Yaman has finally spoken, and he did so with words that the world was entirely unprepared to absorb. This was not merely a celebrity confession given in passing, it was the seismic release of a burden that had calcified over nearly a decade. This was the sound of a man reaching his absolute breaking point. For years, the question has hung in the air like a thick fog: why did he abandon his youth? Why did he turn his back on his country? And, most painfully, why did he walk away from the woman he loved most? Social media has been a cauldron of speculation, with fans connecting invisible dots and critics weaving narratives of arrogance. But no one came close to the scorching truth. Today, the mist has cleared, revealing a picture of a man who didn't just leave a geographical location, he left an entire existence. To understand the magnitude of this confession, we must rewind the clock. When Yaman departed Turkey at the age of 28, he wasn't simply boarding a plane. He was fleeing a life. He left behind the cobblestone streets that had witnessed his meteoric rise, the family structure that provided his moral spine, and above all, a woman who had touched the deepest recesses of his soul. He left fueled by a volatile cocktail of pride, unbridled ambition, and perhaps, a heart that was already quietly bleeding. He was running from his identity. He was running from himself. And as history has taught us, from the ancient myths to modern tragedies, every escape demands a toll. The price Yaman paid was Italy. From the outside, looking in through the distorted lens of Instagram and press releases, the Italian chapter appeared to be a fairy tale. A new country. A flourishing international career. Projects that spanned borders, awards that glittered under stage lights, and red carpets that stretched out like rivers of velvet. But the reality, as we now know, was a stark, monochromatic contrast to the technicolor images we were fed. His first 2 years in Italy were akin to a dream sequence shrouded in a suffocating mist. He was successful, undeniably, but he was profoundly alone. Imagine the scene: the thunderous applause of a Roman audience, the adoration of thousands screaming his name, and then, the silence of a hotel room. He was applauded by millions, yet he sat completely alone backstage, staring into a mirror that reflected a stranger. By the end of the 5th year, the emotional horizon had darkened completely. He had become a man suspended in purgatory, trapped between a past he couldn't return to and a future that felt hollow. If he returned to Turkey, he faced the sharp knives of criticism and the admission of defeat. If he stayed, the inner emptiness threatened to consume him entirely. And then, in the midst of this silent, existential struggle, she entered his life. The tabloids, hungry for a narrative, painted this relationship as a passionate romance, a meeting of fire and ice. But truth is rarely so poetic. For this relationship was not a romance, it was a symptom of his collapse. It was a void filled with the echo of loneliness. It was a fleeting attraction born of curiosity and desperation. It was an emotional band-aid applied to a wound that required surgery. She was the wrong medicine used to treat a chronic nostalgia. This woman, whom he met under the glittering lights of Italy, brought with her a chaotic energy. With her glamorous lifestyle, her controversial history, her contradictory web of relationships, and an insatiable, almost vampiric thirst for public attention, she swept into his life at his most vulnerable moment. She was a storm disguised as a sanctuary. And Can, blinded by his own isolation, realized the danger far too late. The harsh statement that has dominated the headlines today, "That woman was the biggest mistake of my life," was not born of petty jealousy. It was born of a profound moral awakening. The specific detail that shattered the illusion for Can was a matter of character that transcends romance. "I didn't need to be with a woman who even abandoned her child to satisfy her sexual desires." This sentence is the key to unlocking Can's psyche. This was not just an angry outburst. It was a realization of incompatible values. Can Yaman, despite his wandering, remains a man rooted in tradition and family loyalty. The realization that he was entangled with someone whose maternal instincts were secondary to her hedonistic pursuits was a splash of ice water. He saw that a mother's decisions are the truest reflection of her soul. In that moment of clarity, the glamour faded. He realized that this life wasn't his life. This woman wasn't his woman. And the relationship was a monument to his own lost direction. I must pause this heavy narrative to turn to you, the wise observers of anything you want. We have all made choices we regret. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that you knew, deep down, was just a distraction from your own pain? Have you ever chosen the wrong person because you were running away from the memory of the right one? This is a safe space for such discussions. Share your experiences with rebound relationships in the comments below. And if you value this kind of deep psychological analysis, please verify that you have clicked the join button. Your support allows us to keep asking these difficult questions. I lost the right person because of the wrong person. This single sentence has moved millions of people today, resonating far beyond the fan bases of Turkish drama. It resonates because it articulates a universal human tragedy. It is the pain of the path not taken. It is the story of the wrong person arriving at the wrong time, of a stubborn decision made in the heat of youth, of truths that were overshadowed by a blinding pride. For Can, this is true devastation. For years, he likely comforted himself with the fantasy that the woman he left behind in Turkey was waiting, suspended in time, just as he left her. He thought she still lingered in his heart, and he in hers. But life is not a movie. The cameras do not stop rolling when we leave the set. That woman has changed. Lives have evolved. Emotions have transformed. For the first time in 8 years, Can is fully confronting the permanence of his loss. He is realizing that while he was busy making mistakes in Italy, the real life he should have lived was slipping through his fingers. The weariness we have seen etched onto his face in recent months was not an illusion. It wasn't merely the fatigue of a grueling filming schedule. Those of you who observe with the heart, the true detectives of this channel, had noticed the shift. There was less sharing on social media, a retreat from the public eye. His gaze became harder, his face more drawn. He was a man carrying a secret weight. For the first time, Can is confronting his past without the armor of denial. For the first time, he is admitting his own fallibility. He is acknowledging that he chose the wrong person, and the weight of that admission is crushing. Pride acts as an anesthetic. When it wears off, the pain is acute. But let us be clear, this is not the end for Can Yaman. In the grand narrative of a human life, this moment of rock bottom is often the foundation for the most important beginning. From the ashes of every collapse, a new birth is possible. He is no longer navigating his life by the compass of his pride, he is navigating by the stars of his reality. He is no longer thinking with the dull ache of pain, but with the sharp clarity of awareness. And perhaps, for the first time in his adult life, he understands what he truly craves. It is not fame. It is not another award in a foreign language. It is peace. It is calm. It is sincerity. It is a woman who loves him for the man he is, not the statue he represents. It is time for him to make peace with the person he has been avoiding for 8 years, himself. And perhaps, just perhaps, this realization will spark a journey back to his roots, back to his family, and back to the possibility of love in the land where he belongs. We all make mistakes. The tragedy is not in the falling, the tragedy is in refusing to stand up. Yaman's story reminds us that it is never too late to find the right path, even if you have spent years walking down the wrong one. Thank you for witnessing this powerful story of regret and realization with us on Anything You Want. We are left with one final question for the community. Do you believe in second chances for lost loves? If can return to Turkey, do you think he could ever reclaim the life he left behind? Let us know your thoughts. And finally, if this story touched a chord in your heart, please honor the effort by clicking the join button. Support independent storytelling. Be part of the family. Until the next truth is revealed, remember, the heart knows the way home, even if it takes 8 years to find the map. This is Anything You Want. Stay true.